welcome to show number 6. I'd like to thank Stepura, KD Resources, and Kismet Diamonds for sponsoring the show and all my other sponsors. Dave, welcome.
Thanks, Renata. Good to be here.
The legend, Dave Nosworthy. Eh?
Not quite, but good to be here.
I think you are one of the legends in our circles. So, Dave, where did it all start for you in the cricket?
Sure, Renata.
Long time.
How long you want to go back? I think Dad's throwing to me in the garden in Mondial, the deep south.
Sure, you're from the south.
Yeah, that's where I went to primary school, Mondial Primary. Favorite shot was the cut into the hedge square. Loved that. And grew up in Mondial, probably under 13, played in a week called the Jeff Treadwell week at the time.
Okay. Sure.
Kevin Lavery, who was an ex-first class umpire, was my coach, Mondial Primary, and he sort of sowed the seed of cricket, I think. Played baseball as a provincial player in those days, so I think had a bit of hand-eye coordination. So that's where it started. Was fortunate enough to then go to Grey in PE, went to boarding school, as our whole family did. Every single boy, you put on the train and off you went.
Yep.
And again, just fortunate to be in such an environment, cricket mad. And worked my way through, got into the first side in grade 11 or standard 9 in those days.
Yep.
Played Nuffield Week, and the rest sort of just progressed. It was a natural progression into the cricketing world, and just blessed in many ways.
You played for Border, eh? Did you start at Border?
Yeah, when I left school, obviously I played EP Nuffield, went to UPE after that. Yeah. In fact, I came to Joburg and did my MA degree. My dad said, no, MA, matric again. Matric again, MA. Yeah. He said, you come back, marks weren't good enough. And very wise man. And I came back and finished my matric actually at Damlin College.
Okay.
And got to play for Pirates in their first side, which was
the Rats,
eye-opening. Played at the Rats for a season. Sure. And then went back to UPE, got into some of the EPB squads, and just developed from there. Then I had to go fight the war for 2 years, compulsory conscription. Yeah. So that's where I actually found myself in Pretoria. And made my debut is actually, first class debut was for SADF, South African Defence Force.
That was first class cricket those days.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and then out of that into the Northerns teams. So I played for Northerns before Border contacted me, and Peter Kirsten had just arrived in Border, and they had got A-section status for the first time. That was, I think, in 1992, somewhere there. Sure. So I left Northerns, where I was playing mostly B-side, in and out of A squads, and my pathway was pretty much blocked. There were some legendary players, the Lee Barnards, the Mike Hasemans, the Mandy Achads of the world, so as a batter I was pretty much blocked. So I went to Border and spent 5-6 seasons there until I decided to retire, early retirement, and that was my cricket playing career. Yeah.
Sure. The first memory I've got of you was I was like, what, 10, 11 action crickets,
Yeah.
Me and Hawley sitting on the side of the field.
Yeah.
And I still remember this to this day. You walked into the game, I think it was a Super League game.
Okay.
And you had your Northerns jersey on.
Yeah.
That's the first time I realized this is where I want to play.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that
awesome,
transpired from that.
Yeah, awesome.
And sure, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, the City Deep days. They were
your action cricket days.
Yeah, they were good days. I was just saying a bit earlier that I was able to get into that quite early, and it did good things for me in terms of my skills. Yeah. There's a lot of negativity towards action cricket. I'm not that anti. I think it brings other things as long as you can adapt and make sure that you know what you're doing in what form of the game.
Especially your fielding.
Yeah, fielding, sharpness. Even I wasn't a frontline bowler, I was a batter, but gave you different skills. I kept a lot of wicket. I played in the lower social leagues for my brother's team at the time, the Plum Sex Pistols, and it was awesome times. I think the times after the games were even more awesome. But those were good, carefree days. Gave me a break away from professional sport in many ways. And if you saw me sitting alongside those Super League games, that's where we turned it on and got a little bit more intense.
It was good cricket.
Yeah, it was quality players around in those days. A lot of guys that played, and it wasn't easy to go to IPTs. I was fortunate enough to go to IPTs, the first one ever as well. with the then Gauteng Transvaal side.
Transvaal, yeah.
So good days, good memories, and I'll always have a soft spot for action cricket.
And you played with both my brothers, Paul and Louis, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I can tell you some stories there. I saw them in the bar many days.
Not
after.
Paul, Louis.
No. Louis was there, definitely.
He hated a pot, eh? He still does.
Well, Almeidas are thirsty people, you know.
Not Paul.
so-
He never drank, eh?
Really?
He never
I didn't
drank,
know
Paul.
that.
Never.
Yes. So you're making up for him, eh?
Yeah, I've stopped drinking now. It's a month
good
now.
man. Good
So I'm
man.
doing it for 2 years.
Yes, good
Yeah.
man. 2 years.
2 years.
Well
It's
done.
1 month down.
That's good. Well
So,
done.
Dave, where did it start for you in your coaching career?
So, like I said, I finished off. I was
Yeah.
playing at Border, and one of my mentors was a guy called Anton Ferreira, Yogi,
Yogi, yeah.
legend. So when I was in Northerns, I played first class cricket, and he was one of my captains. And it happened at I'll never forget the day, Bohemian Cricket Club.
In East London?
In East London. There was a game happening there. He came down with the Northerns team. I was captaining the Border B side, and we had a long chat on the side of the field. And I was at a stage in my life where I probably realized I'd missed the boat in terms of national sides and stuff like that. You know, obviously
Yeah.
coming through those days of apartheid and stuff, it was a lot tougher to get in any sort of recognition. So not that I was any good anyway. Maybe I wouldn't have got close. But I think I realized then that I think coaching was something I could look at.
Yeah.
And we had a long discussion about it and then left it. And the off season came, and out of the blue there was an advert for the Vodacom Cricket Academy, which
okay.
was the first full-time professional academy, which was to be based at Supersport Park, then called Centurion Park.
Yeah.
And Yogi was appointed as director of the academy, and he actually gave me a call and said, listen, why don't you apply for one of the head coach positions, which I did. Went through an interview process and got the job. So
Oh,
it was
sure.
a move from East London to Pretoria, newlywed, but off we went. And yeah, I think that was the real start. I always had a passion for coaching. Whenever
Yeah.
I was playing, I made sure I did coaching. I did my level courses. Franz Cronier, Hansi's brother,
brother.
he played at Border with me. We would run Friday afternoon coaching clinics in East London. So we always had this, I had this passion towards coaching. And in fact, Franz went on and also
Yeah.
coached the Dolphins for a couple of seasons before he then went and made millions making movies. But yeah, I think that coaching bug's always been there.
Yeah.
I like to teach. I like to share.
Sorry.
Is
your
it
mic.
coming off my mic? Sorry
Yeah.
about that. So as long as I can share and teach, I'm a happy man.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to my coaching career, and where it all really started. Yeah, at the Vodacom Cricket Academy, and
Sure.
and that eventually died a slow death after about 5 or 6 years, sadly. But the youngsters that came through there, the Jacques Rudolphs, Johan Meibergs, the Kruger van Wyks, some really top little cricketers that
Yeah.
came, and I've probably missed a whole lot of them, and they'll kill me for it. But a lot of them went into scoring and umpiring and administration, and it was a real school of cricket, and that kicked me off. And from there, having spent time in that academy, became the director of coaching in Northerns, and then
Okay.
in 2000 got offered the position of the Titans coach. So it was a bit of a progression in the Northerns area, yeah.
Was that your first class coaching stint?
Yeah, it was, and it was quite unique. I'll never forget. I think I'd actually been offered the first class coaching job at Border,
Okay.
and I'd been through the interview and everything. I went to resign at Northerns and said, listen, thanks, I'm going back to East London. And there was a guy called Richard Harrison, who was the president at the time. He said to me, listen, hang in another year or so, and I think you might have better opportunities. And he pushed the wage bill up a little bit for me, which always helped.
Oh, for sure.
And so I hung in and turned Border down. And a year later, the head Titans coach position became available, and they offered it to me. So that was an awesome opportunity. I was still young. I'll never forget the first players I had in my side, as an example, was Steve Elworthy and Rudy Bryson,
Just
who
shots
I was in the army with. So they were my mates.
Now you're coaching them.
And I had a coach, so it was quite a tough, what's the word, to just get the dynamics right and the chemistry right.
Especially with Pivo.
Yeah, look, Peebo's a legend, And look, we were in the army together as well, and there were some fun times there. But I had to draw the line. It was quite tough. I never forget my first practice with the Titans. Shotzi Steve Elworthy was late, a few minutes late. I sent him home.
Sure. Just jetway, eh?
Yeah, I needed to set the tone.
Yeah.
I needed to just say, hey guys, you guys haven't performed. We need to do something different yet.
Yeah.
And I'd done all my coaching courses and my groundwork. I knew I'd had one-on-one interviews with every single player before our first practice. And they all said that, what we needed to do and how we needed to operate and do things differently. So I was really just executing what the general wanted. And yeah, Shotzi and I were best of mates and still are. So he came and he chatted and we forgave and forgive and move on. But it set the tone. I think the guys understood this is the way it's going to be. We're going to be a lot more structured, a lot more professional. And that team went from being 5th and 6th in the logs right up into the finals and semi-finals and stuff. Over the next 5 years, there was a huge transformation. I think Elise Lombard was the CEO.
She was very good.
Unbelievable legend.
Very good.
Sadly, she's passed on.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just let me do my thing. There was a guy called Brandon Foote who became president. And he was another legend in my mind. He just, between the two of them, they probably grew Titans into what they are today and allowed us to put the foundations there with a guy like Yogi before that. And even a guy called Keith Medlicott. I don't know if you remember
overseas,
him. Yeah, he was one of the Titans coaches. And Keith was the first guy in South Africa. And I always say this is the reason why Titans are one of the best.
They're strong, yeah.
He brought in the fact that he will be the sole selector. No more panels. He wanted accountability. He wanted to be responsible. And I learned from that because at the end of the day, you have all these panels. The guys have never had a practice. They never had a gym session. They don't get there. So they look at the newspaper results or they look at stats now on ESPN, but they don't know that guy's in a bad space or whatever. The coach knows.
Or in a slump or whatever.
Yeah. So I think medals, Keith brought that in. Yogi took it over. I eventually got the opportunity, and it was a massive learning curve for me. I think I always was very well aligned with my captain.
Yep.
And I think 98% of the time I let my captain go onto the field with what he wanted.
Who was it, Yarrow?
First it was Gerald Dross.
Dross, yeah.
Yeah, Drossy throughout my Titans career, and then my last season there when the Titans and Easterns joined, it was Daryl Cullinan. So we had to work together.
Oh, DJ.
Yeah, DJ. And we played together at Border.
Yeah.
So DJ
Tough
and I
man,
knew
eh?
each quite well. Yeah, look, I love Daryl. He's an interesting character. There's been recent stuff in the media with him and Faf, obviously. I was a little bit involved in that and some mentions here and there. But, if you sit with Daryl and talk cricket and have a nice open discussion, he is the most intelligent, forward-thinking cricket person I've ever come across, to be honest. So I've got a lot of time for Daryl.
I respect him a lot. He got me playing.
Yeah.
He selected me for my first Transvaal B game.
Okay.
Yeah, got a lot of time for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think obviously he's made a few people angry along the way. In fact, we had some really tough times behind the scenes. Yeah. In fact, some of them were in front of the scenes, which made it really tough. But it was heat of the moment stuff. It was, in those days when they went from 12 first-class teams to 6. Northerns and Easterns, we hated each other on the field. We used to say we're going to play the mechanics.
Yeah, I used to play for Easterns.
Exactly, yeah. Yep. So there was no love lost there.
No, there was nothing.
And suddenly we had to marry. It was my job. They made Ray Jennings, who was the Eastern coach, and myself. We had to go through psychometric tests. We had interviews. It was a whole process to be who was going to be the right guy. So. And obviously Titans were voting for me and Easterns were voting for him, and it became a mess. Eventually I got the job. They offered it to me. But you can imagine so we had to have 16 in a squad, 8 from Northerns, 8 from Easterns. Sure. Okay, I'll make this marriage work. Wow, that year was a bombshell.
Especially with Jet as well.
Yeah, I think, Jet's a proud man. We had some tough conversations. I've got so much respect for him, always did. As a youngster, I grew up watching him in his Northerns and Lions, or in those days, Transvaal jerseys. Yeah, he gave me a blue Northerns shirt of his, and awesome. Like you said, you saw my jersey, I saw his, and that always stuck with me. So I had a lot of respect for Ray, And in some ways, we were put up against each other, which made it really tough. I tried to get him involved and make sure he stayed in, but I think the pride was too much in terms of, for Ray, I don't know, he can speak for himself maybe, but I think it was really tough for him to have to come in almost underneath after just having won the Supersport Series. They won it.
They won it, too.
Yeah, so it made it like really tough. But we made it work. Again, that side we had was a hell of a side. We played in the one-day finals, 50 over. We came second in the Supersport Series, and we won the T20 competition.
That's when Faf and AB were just youngsters.
Youngsters in the change room. Yeah, look, in the Titan squad, they were with me already.
Yeah, they were.
But they couldn't make the first 8 from Northerns. So they were rookies. Sorry,
No, it's just
yeah, so they were rookies, and they were numbers 10, 11, 12, somewhere there, in the 8 from Northerns, or 9, 10. But that was a heck of a year, a mind blast, and lots of lessons learnt. And Daryl and I had some tough times, but we made it work. And one day we'll sit and have a coffee and laugh about it.
Jeez, I grew up with some hard guys there. Jet, Mark, O'Donnell,
yeah.
Daryl, Ken.
Yeah.
That was my upbringing. That's why I'm the way I'm, I think.
Yeah.
Jet's a hard man. Sure.
Yeah, and society's changed. Sure. I think those sort of characters in today's world would be very interesting.
I think frowned upon.
Yeah, probably, and wrongly so.
Yeah.
Some guys will probably say I'm old school, which is fine. I don't mind that.
We both are.
Old school is good school.
Yep.
And I think those guys set the tone, set the parameters. Test cricket's tough, and all those guys had experience there.
All cricket stuff.
Exactly. So you need to have that mental toughness, if that's the right word. And those guys set the tone for us youngsters, and you would have had exposure to those sort of guys. I had exposure to others in my playing day, which were, wow,
Worse than mine.
Yeah, I think everyone will have their stories. Yeah. So
that's the next question I want to ask you. Those days and these days, how do you compare, like player-wise?
Yeah, look,
bit of a tough one.
Yeah, it's always tough to sort of compare players versus players. I was very lucky in Border to play with Peter Kirsten. Kenny McEwen spent a season with us as well. And those two legends, just sitting, staring at them, they would have done just as well today. No doubt about it. If not better in our first-class system, because our first-class systems, I do not believe, is what it was then.
It's not strong.
But it's a different world, and I'm aware of that and understand that. Kenny McEwen was brilliant. I got a pair, my first pair ever at Newlands.
Who got you out?
Merrick Pringle, first innings, and Craig Matthews, the second innings.
2 good bowlers.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. At least they were good bowlers.
Yeah. One mad guy.
Yeah, no.
Merrick.
Mer was beauty. He was involved in my EP Nuffield stuff, so I knew Merrick from back then. He was a Kingswood boy. I was a Grey boy. But, I went back to the change room, and you can imagine youngster, distraught, first pair, what's going on here. And Kenny McEwen came across to me and said, "Don't worry, my boy. I got a pair in a one-day game." And I said, what are you talking about? Like, don't piss me off now. Just leave me alone. He said, "Don't worry. I played for Essex, and we started the game, and I opened the batting, and I got a first baller, and I was out." And he said, "I went back to the change room and took my pads off and was grumpy and packing my bag. And the coach came and said, 'Put your pads back on. We're starting again.' Because the pitch was too bad, so they started a new one. So he went back out to bat, and he got a second baller. So he always says he got a pair in a one-day game. Yeah,
They could play.
Which was awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, look, calm, relaxed. He's a farmer. He's in the Eastern Cape there, still relaxing, I think. And just such a nice guy. I had a lot of respect for that guy.
Yeah, sure. Those are the guys I used to watch on TV.
Yeah.
When I was small, very small.
Yeah.
Small world, not small world. Jeez, I don't know.
Reminiscing.
Sure, that's a bad one. And school cricket. I know you're highly involved with St David's still, are you?
Yeah, I'm the director of cricket at St David's.
Where are you seeing school cricket at this day and age?
Look, I still think it's a crucial part. It's always been a feeder system. Sadly, I'm watching, and I'll go to some of these AGMs and committees and see what's happening, and the numbers are dwindling in terms of schools still involved.
Big time.
Which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's easy to sit and point fingers at different people who should be doing a better job. But ultimately, I think we're all accountable to make sure that we are breeding the love of the game. And I think it's got a lot to do with some of the staff and headmasters in the world that possibly don't drive it as much as they used to in the past. And that's something to consider. It is a game that takes more time, and it's easier for guys to put basketball on or swimming and then go home.
Water polo.
Yeah, water polo, and there are games that I've got no angst against any of those sports. I love sport. That's me. So I just think we need cricket lovers to step up. We need guys to start talking positively about the game, and it's easy to point fingers. There's always three coming back at us. So I just try and always drive the game. In St. David's, we've come a long way in 5 years. We've just tried to put some decent structures into place. I'm a big fan of coaches, as you know. So if you got the right people, that generally breeds the love. They're more patient and they're not in a rush to get home for their meal at 6 o'clock. They'll make sure you play the extra over or two.
Correct.
And that's what we've managed to do. So really good people. St. David's have been great. The headmaster and senior staff are very supportive. And they understand that cricket's not just a game, it's a life game. And you learn a lot of lessons from that. And that's what I try to project as much as possible. There's a lot of life skills that all our boys will take out of that.
Is that why you host that long format?
Yeah,
tournament?
two-day festival.
Yeah.
It's called the Fasken Time Festival, which is coming up now in September. So I just think I'm not naive enough to know that the world's going T20 mad and there's huge money and all the rest. It is what it is, and it's going. And I love it. I enjoy it too, and I watch a lot of it. I'm involved in different ways with that format. But the key is to always have that foundation as a young cricketer. He needs to understand that he can spend time at the crease, that he can work on his technique. As a bowler, you need to be able to bowl second and third spells. As a captain, we forget about breeding captains. There's some thinking in this game that needs to happen. And you got to breed them. So we have a 2-day festival. It's one of the few, if not the only one in the country.
I think it is.
Yeah, where we have 12 teams from all around the country come and join us for 4 days. We play two-day games. It's amazing to see how the youngsters think. They love it because now they're used to this T20 stuff, and they've suddenly got to bat sometimes twice in a day. You get out in the morning and you're back in the afternoon. So it's worked really well. It's exciting. A lot of the coaches of those teams are ex-first class cricketers as well. So they know how to present it and how to strategize and stuff. Yeah, it's good.
And thoughts on baseball? What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I know Baz himself very well. When I was in New Zealand with Canterbury, he was a young 18-year-old in my side. So Brendan and I go back a long way, and he was amazing. He had come sit next to me, and he played as a keeper first. And he batted at... Yeah, no, he was decent, more than decent.
Proper.
And he batted at 9, and he'd come sit next to me in the change room and say, "Coach, I need to get up. The run rate's too slow. What are we going to do?" He had all these thoughts all the time, and I just, Baz, calm down. And he just pecked at me, and eventually I gave him an opportunity to get up the order, and he came and smashed 100 out of nowhere. But he was that character where, we had, I think, 8 black caps in my side. I had Chris Cairns, Chris Harris, Craig McMillan. We had a whole Shane Bond. We had a hell of a side there. And we were thinking, right, we're just going to block out for the rest of the day. That's game's over here. And he'd come sit next to me and say, "We can win this." I say, what are you talking about? No, 8 and over, easy.
Let's go.
So, the Baz ball, he's that player. He believes that you can win from any position. You've seen it. I'm a fan of it because I like positive cricket. But it's all about at the right time. And I don't believe you can play like it all the time in Test cricket. You will come undone more often than not. I've seen it many times. And I think at the right time you can push the button and go for it. I think the declaration, everyone talks about it, wasn't the right thing. I would like to have seen Root go on and get a big one. I'd like to see the Aussie bowlers get into bed that night and think, "I've got to come again." And so I think they got that a bit wrong. Time will tell. But it's a marathon, the Ashes. It's not a sprint. Come the 5th test, we'll see how the England bowlers are feeling. They bowled a lot more overs in this first test. So But baseball, I'm not against, but at the right time, and yeah.
I've
that's what I'd
always
say.
been fun guy of attacking. You know me.
Yeah.
I'm always attacking
Yeah.
type of cricketer. Now LPL involvements in LPL. What's your thoughts on the LPL?
Yeah, look, in 2008, when Ziad Desai came and spoke to me, I was the Lions coach. And he said he's got this going, he wants my players. I said, no, they must train. And I eventually let one or two go. But I was pretty anti as a franchise coach because I needed to make sure my guys were fit and not getting injured. And going away on pre-season seminars and all that stuff. So I think he understood, you know, he was a proper cricketer himself. He understood what was required, and he just went about his business. And then I drifted. I left the Lions. I went to Somerset, and I came back in 2015-16. And after that stint in the UK, I'd seen how this had grown. Yep. And we engaged, and he wanted me involved in some way, and we had coffees and teas. And eventually, I think it was about 2018, somewhere there, I eventually said, okay, let me get a bit more involved. And so now I sit on what they call the council. I advise, I consult, I work with Ziad, and it's all about the love of the game. That's why I'm there. I just want to see cricket grow and flourish. I want to see young players get opportunities that perhaps they couldn't have got. I love the strength versus strength. So the principles are good for me. Yeah. And that's where I assist. You know, I sat on the Gauteng Lions pipeline committee for a couple of years. So I'm always looking to see where I can help and grow the game. I'm no longer on that. I'm now working with Ziad quite closely with the LPL, and there's some exciting things happening there. And any cricket lover should just be wanting to see the game flow and grow. You're involved. The Devils have been flying and doing a great job, and we need more of the characters of your sort injecting energy into the space for the cricketers. That's what we're here for, not anything else. I'm here for cricket, and I think we need more of those characters.
No politics, just cricket.
Yeah, there'll always be. I think, and politics could be between a coach and a selector.
Yeah.
And a selector and a captain. So, you know, any sort of politics is not good for the game. It's how you manage it and how you move forward and grow this beautiful game.
One last thing, Dave.
Yeah.
Funniest chirp you ever received while batting?
Too many, eh?
No, name me one. And who?
Not really a chirp, but I'll tell you about my first class debut. Omar Henry facing him.
Okay.
And I love Omar. He's legendary.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Was it in black and white still?
No. It was. I made my debut for SADF, as I told you.
Yeah.
So it was up in Namibia. Boerland came to play the first class game up there. And Omar and I commentated after that for Supersport for many years, but Omar threw that thing so high, so he just slower and slower, and I was just getting back and cutting, but no runs because he packed the offside. I was a youngster, I was naive, couldn't get it through. And the last ball of the day, you know, you go through today 3 and 4, whatever it was. The last ball of the day, I hadn't seen it all day. Chucked in that little quicker arm ball drifting in like this. And what was I doing? I was cutting. From those early days on the with my dad on the flipping front lawn there, cutting. Boom, middle stump gone. And I got a send off that day from Stephen Jones and Omar Henry and all those guys in that side. So that's stuck with me forever.
Awesome. Dave, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Renat. Awesome. Yeah, great to chat. Thank you.
And I'll see you on the cricket field, the LPL.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Dave. Over and out.